channel Code Breaker. So today we are going to talk about the arrow functions. So basically the arrow functions are nothing but the fat arrow, we call it as a fat arrow functions. So here the fat arrow functions would be written as a smaller format, considering as an example with respect to the normal functions or the anonymous functions. So basically we will see how the we will make a difference with respect to the anonymous functions and the arrow functions. So suppose you have one anonymous functions as a let add equal to function. We generally write anonymous functions with while declaring one of the variable name, and inside this, if we have to write with the function keyword and the curly braces. We can also say it as a parenthesis, and then we return this function as x. Suppose if we are performing addition, we write it as a x plus y, and we call this function. We'll call it as we'll write pass some argument. So here if you see, right, this add functions. So this is not an arrow functions. Basically I'm trying to find it out the difference with respect to the number of lines we write in the code with respect to the anonymous functions and the arrow functions, or we can also call it as fat arrow functions. So this is the arrow functions is the newer format which was introduced in the year 6. So we will see how this number of the code line difference and how the syntax may differ with respect to the normal functions or the anonymous functions and the fat arrow functions. So let's see how we can write this anonymous function. So if you see here, right, we are writing in a single line, and here the function is getting replaced with this arrow. So this less number of lines of the codes can be written, and along with that we see the difference with the code structure. So if we try to call this, we can also call this also, and you are able to see, right, how this lines number of lines of the code is making the difference and the syntax is getting differed. So that makes our code bit cleaner and bit more understandable with respect to the older way of writing the function expression, and that helps to write the code in multiple. If we have to add this case in over the multiple scenario, we can do that also. So let's run this code and see how this code is getting executed and what output we'll get. So I think we can add some comment which will help us to determine what output we are getting over the console. Currently we are getting 9 and the 5. So if I see that this is output we are getting from the arrow function, and this output we are getting from the normal anonymous function. Now if I run again the code, so you can see, right, the arrow function is returning 9 and anonymous function is returning 5, and the difference you can see, right, this is for the arrow functions and this is for the anonymous function. So suppose if we have some condition, right, considering as a situation where we have to perform the subtraction. So here if you see, right, suppose if we have some variable uh, let result, it should be nothing but the currently it would be empty 0, and then if we have the x value is less than y, then we generally write like result equal to x minus y. Else if x is, you can say it x is greater than y. So x minus y, else result equal to y minus x. So here we can see, right, the code which we are writing, the number of the lines of the code is making the difference with respect to the whatever the we usually use over the normal functions. But if we have to perform this operation here, what we can do, we can use the ternary operator here. So considering if x is greater than y, so we can use x minus y, else y minus x. So this makes our code more simplifier and simplifies the code and make our code more better, means we can say better way of writing the code in comparison to the, here the number of the lines of the code is getting more, and the syntax, syntactically it is creating a difference. So you can see, right, the performance wise and the using the arrow functions creates a huge difference with respect to the normal anonymous function. So now if you use this function, pass some value like 2 comma 3, the same value here if you use, right. So what it will do, this will call this method and it will check the condition if x is greater than y. So passing the first argument and second argument, it will go to the else condition, because here x is less than y. Here x would be 2 and the y would be 3. So it will check the condition, it will come to the else condition, and it will remove 2 3 minus 2 and it will return the result as a 1. But for the arrow function, which is the parameter which we are passing, is again the same. Here x is considered as a 4 and y is considered as a 5, and it will check whether the x is greater than y. No, it will go to the else condition, it will subtract 5 minus 4 and create some different value 5 and 3. Let's see here, now it will go to the first if condition and it will return us the result. Now if I try to return the result, we'll see as a anonymous functions we are getting as a 2. You can call it as a named functions also if required. And so this is creating a huge difference with respect to the whatever the operations we are performing. Consider a more concise way of writing the arrow function in comparison to the normal function. So suppose we don't, if we are returning any of the expressions as a, we don't have any conditional operator, we don't require a curly braces. So if you are performing more than one operation here, suppose we are doing the calculation, then we can use the ternary. If we are not doing the ternary operator operation, then we can remove this condition and we can utilize the curly braces and we can write the condition here. If we are not doing any mathematical operation, so you can write, use the curly braces also. But yeah, mathematical operation or any other operation, it's not specific to the mathematical operation, so we can utilize for the single. So handling of the any of the one parameter also will help us to write the a more concise way of writing the arrow function. Suppose if you are performing any of the multiplication or the square root, you can say the square root of the number. So you here what you do, we generally used to pass in normal function we used to pass one parameter and do return x into x. So here you can, in the arrow function you can just directly use x and give one arrow and return x star x. So what it will do, it will directly return the square root of the number. So considering as a example console.log square root, you can use the camel case, that is, and then you can pass some value, either 4, 5 or anything, that doesn't matter. Also arrow function for multiplication, or you can say to get the square root of the number. So it will help us to get to know what this method is doing. Arrow function to get this value. So you can see, right, the result is 25. So now, yeah, if required, we can use the conditional logic, or we can use the ternary operator. That is one thing. And yeah, so basically here we cannot use the uh, in the arrow function we cannot use the this operator, because this will not be referring to the no arrow functions, doesn't have this considering as a current value in comparison to the normal functions where we used to use the this operator to reference to the current variable. um, so that is one major drawback with respect to the normal function. We generally used to write in the normal function, like suppose we have employee detail, and we generally use like this dot employee id, but in fat arrow function we cannot reference the variable with this operator. That is the one of the major drawback with respect to the fat arrow function in comparison to the normal function. But rest all any of the operations or any of the value return we have to do, we can utilize the fat arrow function. That would be help us to achieve any of the logic which we used to write. So yeah, that's it for the arrow functions, we can say. uh, yeah, if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel Code Break. Thank you guys.